any HBCU graduates in the house? Yes. We are so excited to talk about our HBCU that is right in our own backyard, the Texas Southern University. Yes. Texas Southern University. Oh, and if you know Texas Southern University, you know the name Dr. Thomas F. Freeman. He is now our Black History. He is our Black History. Dr. Thomas F. Freeman has managed, led, and coached the Texas Southern University debate team for over 70 years. Yes, give him his love. And in his time, Dr. Freeman has not only taught and encouraged and inspired collegiate students to be the greatest debaters, but he has also shaped them to live and be in a manner that brought pride and prestige to the university, their families, and the community. I am honored to have been one of his students and to be under his teachings. But I am so proud today to introduce to some and present to others the world-renowned, internationally known, award-winning Texas Southern University debate team. Give it up.
The celebration of Black History Month is more important than ever before. The past 2 years have been devastating. A global pandemic which has resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Americans. Black people and poor people have suffered the most from this pandemic. The efforts to hinder the teachings of critical race theory are an effort to erase our history. How can we move forward if we have no understanding of our history?
The Texas Southern University debate team is proud to present this Reader's Theater presentation, scripted especially for this occasion by head coach, Dr. Gloria Roberts-Batiste, based on the writings of Pastor Diane Givens Moffitt and addressing our footprints in history.
Proud Africans were my foreparents, born in a rich, dark, fertile land, a land sparkling with precious jewels and valuable stones.
Born in a land where the sun shines bright, coloring the skin of its people in a rainbow of black hues.
Suntan,
Copper,
Bronze,
mahogany,
chocolate. Proud Africans were my foreparents, endowed with thick lips, thick hair, and thick bones, endowed with great intellect, great spirit, and great creativity, allowed with feet to dance, hips to swing, and bodies to sway to the sound of celebrations of our moments in life.
celebrating birth,
death,
manhood,
womanhood, and marriage.
celebrating the rhythm of life, the beat of a drum, the music of our maker.
Proud Africans were my foreparents. Proud were they until the day our community was betrayed by people who looked like us, victim of clanship and rivalry,
Betrayed and sold.
Sold into the hands of white oppressors who enslaved us.
Sold like animals for economic gain.
sold like objects to be owned and controlled.
sold like Jesus for 30 shekels of silver.
Sold. Proud Africans were my foreparents, forced to sail across the Atlantic Ocean, packed as human cargo in the hull of ship. Some committed suicide. Some lost their minds. Many died. Most held on to life, allowing sorrow to fuel a revelation of hope.
Hope for freedom.
Hope for a new life.
Hope for the future and humanity.
Hope in God.
Proud Africans were my foreparents. Hope was hushed by the reality of slavery. It was a season to mourn, stripped of family ties, stripped of names, stripped of culture, stripped of native tongue.
Slavery, slavery, slavery.
The pride of my African foreparents was diluted, bathed in salty tears and the dark pools of grief.
White oppressors taught us to hate ourselves, Could anything good be black?
Well.
Our dark skin, our thick hair, our thick lips, our thick bodies, our pidgin English, all bore witness to their bigoted belief in our inferiority. The waged war for the submission of our humanity. The weapons?
Violence,
hatred, abuse, women raped,
Men slaughtered.
Infants snatched from their mother's nursing breast.
families divided and dealt like playing cards.
Children watched and learned.
we screamed,
We shouted.
We prayed to a silent God, a God who seemed not to speak. And in the name of a religion, slavery continued, unabated for more than 200 years.
But truth smashed to the ground shall rise again.
Yes.
Their white Christ became our black Jesus. God spoke.
We listened and we learned that we would rise.
Yes.
By God's hand, we would rise. Like Jesus, we did rise.
Rise like the morning sun. Rise like the Easter star. Rise like yeast in the dough of bread.
Rise with our leaders. Nat Turner.
Denmark Vesey.
Marcus Garvey.
Frederick Douglass.
Rise with our leaders. Mary McLeod Bethune.
Sojourner Truth.
Ida B. Wells.
Mickey Leland.
Baba Jordan.
Dr. Thomas F. Freeman.
Proud African Americans were my foreparents, renewed by the Spirit
Yes.
and anointed in power.
Yes.
One people out of many tribes, shaped by the popular, a determined people,
A persistent people.
A stubborn people.
A strong people.
a visionary people.
Hope rose up.
The revolution began.
Proud African Americans were my foreparents.
Hey.
A glimpse of deliverance came in 1863. Slavery died. We celebrated Juneteenth style.
Yes.
But the black man's hallelujah was the white man's heartache. The slavery's death was not readily accepted. Many grieved its passing and resisted.
The revolution
had just begun.
The Ku Klux Klan flourished, segregation thrived, hatred, rejection, lynching, Jim Crow laws. The 13th Amendment changed the Constitution, but not the heart of a racist nation.
The revolution had just begun. Proud African Americans were my foreparents.
Yes.
Fighting for the revolution, they prepared for the long battle ahead, armed with the weapon of prayer.
Armed with the defense of the gospel.
Armed with the vision of God.
Armed with a purpose in mind.
Armed with the strength of the black church.
Martin Luther King Jr. stood up and preached.
Coretta Scott King stood up and prayed.
Malcolm X stood up and taught.
Betty Shabazz stood up and tutored.
Rosa Parks stood up for her right to sit down.
The revolution had just begun.
Proud African Americans were my foreparents. By the hand of God and the sweat of human flesh, the legacy of African Americans is enacted and the foundation of history.
Lest we not forget the road they have traveled.
Lest we think we arrived here alone.
Lest we betray our community.
Discover the power and wisdom in knowing the vision God has for us.
Knowing how we may accomplish it, knowing.
Proud were our
They
foreparents.
are calling us.
Wooing us.
Imploring us. Stay in the fight. Hope in God and hold on.